all these items throughout this house, and still no one was looking at this woman with an inquisitive eye?
Pascal.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Pascal back at it again with another pop-up video. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and on Twitter and Threads, The Pascal Show, one word. Hit that like button down below, and let's not forget to crush that subscribe button if this is your first time checking out this channel right here. Anyway, we got to jump into this story. I want to make this one quick, but there has been more information that has come out revolving around Rudy Farias, his whole story. You know, he was 17 when he went missing in 2015. It is now 2023. He has been found, okay, only to find out that he has been hiding, or his mother has been hiding him, holding him captive, basically, in plain sight in her own home for the past 8 whole doggone years. We already know that there's been some crazy, unthinkable allegations pitted against the mother, but at the same time, she hasn't caught any charges right now, guys. Not one charge right now. Okay, which is still absolutely mind-boggling to me. But there's this article I wanted to share with you guys because it still shows that even back then, during the investigation, for the first 2 years, there were 2 private eyes that were involved in this situation. They were investigating, trying to get down to the nitty-gritty, trying to get down to the truth of what happened to him, where he went, and all that. And even during their findings, even during their investigation, there were all kinds of different red flags just flying up left and right throughout the whole thing. Some of it had to do with the cosmetics of the home, how things looked, padlocks, etc. Even a letter that was left behind. We're going to get into this. Like I said, you see the title over here. This is crazy, guys. And the accusations are very, very real. But let's get into this. As you see, inside his home, private investigators at the time of the investigation during 2015 to 2017, okay? Investigators found padlocks on doors, a suspicious letter that who wrote, we'll find out here shortly. And of course, let's not forget the 2 dogs that allegedly he walked off with. No dogs were found throughout the house, but they left a little treat, or a couple treats, or little gifts, if you will, throughout the house. I'm going to get into this right now. Let's get into this, guys. Okay. So as we already know, all right, this teenager at the time, okay, he was 17, 18 around that time of March 2015 when he went out to walk his 2 dogs and he went missing. Okay. And while the dogs soon wandered home, allegedly, Farias, vanished for 8 years, only to reappear this past week, okay, or a couple weeks ago, okay? So now, as this account unravels, volunteer private eyes who worked the original missing persons case throughout its first 2 years are wondering if anything they were told by Rudy's mother were true, even the part about the dogs. Don't worry. They'll come back to play their hand here in just a little bit, okay? So police did confirm that Farias had returned home the very next day after he went missing in March of 2015. So he disappeared for a day and he came back. He left and he came back the next day, but she never reported him missing, okay? We all know that piece, all right? Like much of Mom Janny's story, Rudy's dogs may also be fictitious. 2 private eyes told Insider, the article I'm reading here, okay? Where were those dogs? Okay, and that's what one of the private eyes was asking and wondering when they were in a phone interview with the Insider, okay? Janny could not produce the dogs. She said she didn't know where the dogs were. We had no corroboration that there were ever dogs. One thing that I found interesting is these are the 2 private eyes. Again, 2 private eyes were in the middle of this investigation in the very, very beginning. And understandably, they're doing their due diligence, they're breaking things down. But throughout this whole thing, red flags are flying up left and right. You can see it in bold right there, talking about padlocks on some doors. I don't know about you guys, but that screams red flag. But let's get into this a little bit, okay? Now, one, the home where Farias or Rudy allegedly remained for all those 8 years is a little beige ranch, 3-bedroom house built in 1975. It cost about $175,000. Okay, in the 2 years of their probe, we had been to the house more times than they have fingers. Okay, much about the home never sat well with one of the private eyes. There were padlocks on the doors in the hallway, she said, and she would never let us speak to the mother. That's very interesting as well. Now, letters. We got to talk about these letters, or a letter, I'm sorry, that was left in Rudy's room. Now, this is what the private eye says. So we went to his bedroom to look for clues. We do this with all missing children. That makes sense. You're a private eye. You're looking things up. Maybe you'll be able to find something, a clue that'll get you closer to cracking the case or finding that missing person, right? So the teen's homework was still there. So that's good. He was still going to school at that time. In his distinctive printed handwriting, that's important to remember. But I found a letter that was a letter from Rudy to his mother written in cursive. We took it and compared it to other pieces of Janny's handwriting and realized that she actually wrote it. It matched her handwriting perfectly. Moving on, it says, in the supposed Dear Mom letter, or whoever penned it, it explained that he'd run away on purpose. That letter and the stormed off scenario was never passed along to authorities. Okay, let me just say this. You got two private eyes that are looking into this information. They find a letter, just happen to be just placed somewhere in this young kid's bedroom. And it's basically a dear mom of, I can't take it anymore. I'm out of here. I'm going to live my life, whatever. You know, I'm going to join the circus, whatever it might be, right? But it's written in cursive and it matches perfectly to her own handwriting. And yet this scenario and none of this stuff was ever passed over to the authorities. Why? Even yourself, I know private eye and all that, but that's information that could be extremely crucial, extremely helpful in exposing some more truths. Again, red flags. That doesn't make sense, but let's continue on. So they did that. They never did that. They didn't pass it on to the authorities, or it was never passed on to the authorities. But instead, the mother went with a more sympathetic claim that her son was had simply vanished in thin air. Like I don't know where he is. Help me find Rudy, right? And possibly taken by the hands of Mexican, and I can't even T words. I can't even say that word, code words, and all that stuff, guys. Of course. Welcome to the platform. Okay. So allegedly his so-called taking. Again, I got to use these code words. We asked Janny for permission to search the house, to search his room. We did just that. She'd let us go in there for in the first weeks of the case. And she had his cell phone that supposedly was found by a witness who saw a struggle between Rudy and a gang of kids. The cell phone was crushed. So it was already destroyed. And I wonder who destroyed that cell phone, because I'm sure there was some really damning information on that cell phone. But couldn't they just go into his phone records and whatnot and pull those records up to expose maybe something that he said? Maybe there's breadcrumbs there. You see what I'm saying? In helping finding this young man. Santana hosted a fundraiser around this supposed abduction scenario. And this is what the private eye said. And there was a witness, a teenage girl, who spoke at the actual event. And she couldn't hold the story together. So she just walked away. This was someone who Janny had forced into talking to us. Again, red flags like crazy. But see, that's the thing. All of this work back then in 2015 to 2017, all of this work and nothing, still nothing. You didn't do, she didn't become maybe a person of interest or a suspect or anything. I find that a little bit weird, guys. I find that a little bit odd. But let's continue. Okay. There was stuff on the couch. Okay. By 2020, in this little ranch where Rudy may have been hiding in plain sight, had fallen into despair. Okay. And let's be real. He clearly was hiding in there. They have confirmed that. But the place got more, it started to rot from the inside out, for lack of a better term. Okay. And even at that time, in 2020, the family were the extended family, relatives and whatnot, were trying to get custody or guardianship over their grandmother, who actually was living in that house at that time as well. But she was being poorly treated, okay, malnourished. All right. They even say in here the crazy amount of stuff. The aunt even said here, okay, she described the little beige ranch, okay, as a not clean, safe, or habitable residence. All right. It pretty bad. Okay. And I know I've talked about this in the previous piece, but this is some crazy stuff. While in Santana's home, the grandmother slept on a couch which smelled of urine. The home had animal urine and feces throughout the house. So maybe the dogs did come home after all. And I got to be real. Maybe the dogs did come home. Or maybe the dogs never left. Because let's be real. You got animal feces, animal excrement throughout the house, urine all over the house, all that stuff. The place is probably reeking to high hell. And you got a grandmother that's sleeping on a couch, malnourished and unkempt. Again, all these things that you see here scream red flags, scream that this person, this Janny Santana individual, this mother of Rudy, is a very dangerous person. Clearly, she did everything she could to cover her own tracks. Now, the thing is you hear all of this stuff. Private eyes were going through all this stuff, all of this information in 2015 and 2017. The information later on with the house being filled with filth wasn't until about 2020. So let's go to the 2015 and 2017 2-year investigation part. The writing of the letter showing that it was her own handwriting. The fact that she clearly was trying to cover her tracks by bringing in an eyewitness, basically saying that he was taken by certain people, that he was in a fight with a gang of kids on the street, so on and so forth. Even that person, that eyewitness, bowed out because they couldn't handle keeping up with the lies. There's clearly full-on red flags of this person, this Janny Santana's wrongdoing, and yet she's still out here in these Texas, Houston streets breathing in this freedom air. Again, there were red flags back then, and still nothing happened. She didn't catch a case for nothing. Why, I ask you? Why? This is so strange to me. This case is so odd. And I keep wanting to ask the private eyes that were involved in the first 2 years of this investigation, why didn't they push these things for themselves? If they saw some red flags, if they saw some weird wrongdoings coming from the mother, why wasn't there more attention and more of a light shone on her wrongdoings and the questionable things that she was doing throughout that time? This case could have been solved within those 2 years. I find that a bit odd. Again, handwriting matched her own, the mother's. She penned her own "Dear Mom" letter. Private Eye knew about this, but it never went to the authorities? That's weird, guys. That's really, really weird. Anyway, guys, that's the video. Comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. I mean, this information shows me that this woman is a very dangerous human being. And obviously, because of trying to keep everything contained, literally and metaphorically speaking, it seems to be like the house was rotting from the inside out. Maybe it was just the fear of him being exposed. So she just let the dogs boo-boo everywhere. I don't know. It's so strange, that piece. Okay. That is so strange. But to me, I don't understand why this woman is not locked up by now. There are plenty of things you could be throwing on her, sticking on her right now as we speak. And I hope they do that with the quickness. Anyway, that's the video. Comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Don't forget to hit that like button and most definitely crush that subscribe button. It'd be great to have you a part of the Pascal Show family. Anyway, it's time to get going. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. And, you know, I hope we get justice for Rudy very soon. And I'll see you guys in the next video. This is the Pascal Show. Bye.
Pascal, you are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild.